For 30 years, Friends sold us something beautiful. 6 friends, 1 couch, endless cups of coffee, and a world that felt warm right down to its bones. We bought it completely. And then Lisa Kudrow opened her mouth. And the whole thing shifted. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She sat down with the Times of London in April 2026 and almost casually said there was mean stuff going on behind the scenes. 6 words. That's all it took to crack a legend that had been airtight for 3 decades. Now here's what makes this so unsettling. Kudrow isn't bitter. She's 62 years old, still collecting residuals that would make your eyes water, and she'll be the first to tell you the show was incredible work she'll always cherish. But there's a line between loving what you made and pretending the making of it was painless. And Lisa just crossed that line. So what exactly was going on behind those cameras? The writer's room. That's where it starts. 12 to 15 people, crafting the scripts that would make Friends one of the most watched shows in television history. Mostly men. And according to Kudrow, when an actress stumbled over a line in front of 400 live audience members, the response from that room wasn't quiet encouragement or a gentle note. It was harsh, expletive-filled criticism fired backstage, accusations that she couldn't read, that she wasn't trying, that she was ruining everything. These weren't nervous extras. These were women on their way to earning $1 million an episode, and they were being talked about like that. But it didn't stop at insults. Kudrow also revealed that late into the night, the men in that room were openly discussing their sexual fantasies about Jennifer Aniston and Courtney Cox. She said it was intense, not shocking, not unacceptable. Intense. Like weather. Like something you note, file away, and keep moving from. And that's exactly what she did. She gave herself permission not to care about what was said when she wasn't in the room. She told herself it didn't matter, and she kept showing up to work. You can almost respect the mental discipline, but then you start to wonder, if surviving that show required muting your own discomfort, what does that say about the show's foundations? And here's the part that will genuinely stop you cold. This had all surfaced before. In 1999, a woman named Amani Lyle was working as a writer's assistant on Friends. Her job was to sit in that room and document everything. Every joke pitch, every creative riff, every comment. Nothing filtered, nothing off the record. And what she heard disturbed her deeply enough that she sued Warner Brothers for sexual and racial harassment. Court documents detailed male writers making explicit sexual comments about Aniston and Cox, simulating sexual acts, and maintaining what she described as a relentlessly vulgar environment. She said it was a hostile workplace hiding behind the banner of creative freedom. The case climbed all the way to the California Supreme Court, and in 2004, the court ruled against her. The reasoning, because Friends was a show about sex and relationships, graphic conversations in the writer's room could theoretically be considered part of the creative process. Let that land for a moment. Sexually fantasizing about your lead actresses out loud in front of support staff, a court decided that could be defensible as comedy writing. The case faded, the headlines moved on, and Friends kept airing, kept earning, kept being beloved. Nobody from the writing staff spoke. Nobody from NBC or Warner Brothers said a word. And now, more than 20 years later, one of those lead actresses is quietly confirming that what Lyle described wasn't exaggeration. It was just a Tuesday. Before you decide how to feel about all of this, it helps to know who Lisa Kudrow actually is. Because the woman behind Phoebe Buffay is genuinely surprising. She was born in Encino, California, the youngest of 3 kids in a grounded academic Jewish family. Her father was a physician, her mother a travel agent. Acting wasn't part of the plan at all. Lisa was a serious student, varsity tennis player, and a Vassar College graduate with a degree in psychobiology. She went home to Los Angeles and started conducting real clinical research alongside her father, studying the relationship between left-handedness and cluster headaches. She co-authored a published scientific paper. Phoebe Buffay, published neurological researcher. The pivot to comedy came through her brother's childhood friend, John Lovitz, who saw something in her and nudged her toward improv. She enrolled at the Groundlings while still working in her father's clinic. There she crossed paths with a struggling comedy writer named Conan O'Brien. They briefly dated, then became close friends. She pushed him toward late night. He pushed her to keep acting when she nearly quit entirely. Not a bad exchange, but the road was brutal. She lost an SNL audition to Julia Sweeney. She landed a role on Frasier and was replaced before the pilot even aired. She watched door after door close. And then came a small recurring role on Mad About. You as the spacey waitress Ursula Buffet, a character so specific that when Friends came calling, the creators folded her in as Phoebe's twin sister. She had to audition twice. The director, James Burrows, was the same man who'd cut her from Frasier. She was terrified he still didn't believe in her. He did. A decade of rejection, a decade of grinding through every no Hollywood had to offer. And even after earning her seat at that table, the men in the back room still couldn't treat her with basic dignity. So why stay? Why keep quiet for 30 years? Part of the answer is money, and not in a cynical way. When Friends premiered in 1994, each cast member earned $22,500 per episode, equal but modest. By season 2, the network quietly tried to split the cast, offering bigger raises to Jennifer Aniston and David Schwimmer, the anchors of the central love story. What happened next almost never happens in Hollywood. Aniston and Schwimmer said no. They refused to accept deals that left their castmates behind. They took pay cuts in season 3 to bring everyone level, and from that point on, all 6 stars negotiated as one unit, a collective front the network couldn't divide or conquer. By season 7, with NBC desperate to keep its biggest show on air, the leverage was undeniable. Salaries hit $750,000 per episode. Then, for seasons 9 and 10, $1 million each per episode. Jennifer Aniston, Courtney Cox, and Lisa Kudrow became the 3 highest-paid television actresses in history. At the time, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, and it still hasn't stopped. In the same interview where she revealed everything about the writer's room, Kudrow was asked why the cast still pulls in $20 million a year in residuals, more than 2 decades after the finale. Her answer? Because Phoebe Buffay was so great. She said it like a joke, but it's also just the truth. The show lives on everywhere, streaming, cable, the laptops of teenagers who weren't alive when it aired. Every time someone hits play, the cast gets a check. But none of that, not the records, not the residuals, not the Emmy, cushioned what happened on October 28, 2023. Matthew Perry died at his home in Los Angeles at 54. Acute effects of ketamine, found in his hot tub, Chandler Bing. The fastest wit on the show, the man who built an entire career on deflecting real pain with a perfectly timed punchline. The cast called themselves a family in their joint statement. And they meant every word. Kudrow had always been clear, whatever the writers did, the cast itself was different. They showed up for each other. She called Perry a genius and said that whatever any of them did in the future, nothing would ever feel quite like that again. After his death, she did something she had famously resisted for years. She started re-watching Friends. Watching herself perform had always felt too strange, too clinical, like watching someone else wear her face. But grief rewrites your relationship with the past. She told the Times that for the first time, she could see just how great it actually was. And maybe that's the key to understanding why she's talking now. She rewatched the show. She grieved her friend. She counted the years. And somewhere in that process, she decided the full truth was more valuable than the comfortable version of it. She never said anything bad about Friends, and she meant that. But telling the truth about what it cost to make it. That's not criticism. That's just honesty. What Kudrow did with that interview is bigger than a celebrity revelation. It's a window into what women in entertainment absorbed for decades just to stay in the room. The Friends writers' room wasn't a rogue operation. It was a product of its era, when casual humiliation was considered part of the deal and when pushing Back meant being labeled difficult, oversensitive, a problem. Amani Lyle pushed back the right way, through the courts, and lost. The message sent to every woman in that building after that ruling was simple. Sit down, stay quiet, and be grateful. What makes Kudrow's words so powerful is that nobody can dismiss her. She has the Emmy. She has the record-breaking deal. She has the 20 million a year rolling in from streaming. She made it by every possible measure, and she's still saying it was brutal, it was wrong, and the way she survived it was by training herself not to care. The writing staff said nothing, NBC said nothing, Warner Brothers said nothing, and maybe that silence tells you everything you need to know. Because what exactly do you say when one of the most beloved women in television looks back across 30 years and says, I know what happened. I just decided not to let it break me. And now I've decided you should know that I know. The truth about Friends was never really buried. It was just waiting for someone with enough distance, enough security, and enough hard-won peace to finally say it out loud. Lisa Kudrow just did. And in doing so, she didn't damage her legacy. She completed it.